Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're taking a fascinating and honestly potentially life-saving journey. We're going to decode 23 disparate survival tricks from our source material and organize them into one highly structured, highly visual guide. You see, when panic sets in, having a mental image of exactly what to do can quite literally be the difference between tragedy and survival. So get ready to take some mental notes. Okay, let's dive into this. Picture this absurdly escalating scenario for a second. A massive black bear is on your heels, smoke from a wildfire is billowing around you, and somehow your hands are bound tight in a cable tie. You're having a seriously bad day. Fortunately, surviving this kind of absolute chaos comes down to one simple thing: taking it one logical step at a time. To keep from getting totally overwhelmed, we've grouped these frantic situations into 4 logical environments: surviving wild animal encounters, escaping water and ice, travel and transit emergencies, and finally, home and urban survival. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, Surviving Wild Animal Encounters. You know, the wildest thing about wilderness survival is that it usually means fighting against your own deeply ingrained human instincts. I mean, your brain is screaming at you to just run away in a panic. But if you bolt from a pack of wolves, you instantly trigger their biological chase instinct. You've got to stand your ground so they don't risk the attack. And black bears, running or turning your back just makes them hostile. Your best bet, the actual reality here, is to lie completely flat on your stomach, protect your organs, and cross your hands behind your neck to guard those arteries. Basically, like the source jokingly points out, if you run into Yogi Bear, whatever you do, don't look like a picnic basket. And this brilliantly illustrates how nature actually gives us warning signs, if we know what to listen for. Like, if the forest suddenly goes dead quiet, that means smaller animals are hiding because predators are near. Out in the open ocean, if fish vanish out of nowhere or start frantically jumping out of the water, sharks are probably closing in. And get this, if you're actually being charged by a massive moose, use their biology against them. Hide behind a tree. They have a severe blind spot in their peripheral vision, which gives you the perfect window to slip away. Now, let's look at one of the most brilliant biological hacks we've found in the source, the avalanche spit test. If you're ever buried under an avalanche, you're going to be completely disoriented. You literally won't know up from down. So as soon as you stop moving, make a tiny air pocket around your face and just spit. Gravity is always going to pull that saliva down. Once you see which way it falls, you start digging out in the exact opposite direction. It's a terrifying scenario, but man, what an elegant, physics-based way out. Still out in the wild, let's say you desperately need clean water. You can actually rig up a DIY MacGyver-style water filter in 3 easy steps. First, put a tall container of dirty water right next to a lower empty one. Next, dip a piece of cloth into the tall container and let it drape down into the lower one. The water will naturally wick its way through the fabric, leaving all the heavy dirt behind in the top cup. But, and this is absolutely crucial, remember that step 3 is mandatory. You still have to boil that newly filtered water to kill any invisible microbes. Moving right along to Section 2, Escaping Water and Ice. When we step out of the forest and head to the water, survival really comes down to basic physics and fluid dynamics. Let's start with a massive geological warning sign. If you're ever at the beach and the ocean suddenly recedes, like way past the normal low tide line, do not stick around to investigate. Warn everyone and run inland immediately. That rapid water recession is the definitive sign of an incoming tsunami, and recognizing it gives you a literal life-saving head start. Here's another terrifying battle between instinct and reality. Caught in a rip current pulling you out to sea, your gut instinct is to fight it and swim straight back to the beach. Please, do not do this. You're just going to exhaust yourself and drown. The reality? Swim parallel to the shore. Rip currents are usually just narrow channels of water, so by swimming parallel, you essentially step right off that rapid treadmill. Only then do you angle back toward the sand. Okay, what about frozen water? If you ever find yourself trapped on thin ice, whatever you do, don't try to stand up. Standing concentrates all your body weight right onto the tiny footprint of your boots, which will just break the ice further. Instead, rely on surface area physics. Lie completely flat on your stomach, spread your arms and legs wide, and use ice picks to drag yourself if you have them. If you don't, just slowly roll away in the exact direction you originally came from, because, hey, you already know the ice over there was thick enough to hold you just moments ago. Now for a really scary one, a sinking car. Panic makes you want to shove the door open immediately, right? But the outside water pressure makes that impossible. The incredibly counterintuitive move here is that you actually have to wait patiently for the car to fill with water to equalize the pressure inside and out. If you need a tool to break the glass, pull your seat's headrest all the way out and use the metal prongs. And a quick tip, never smash the center of the window where it's most flexible. Strike hard right at the outer edges where the glass is rigid and way easier to shatter. All right, let's shift gears to Section 3, Travel and Transit Emergencies. Think about your daily commute or when you fly. How observant are you, really, when you're just a passenger? Here's a scenario they brief you on before every single takeoff, but people still get wrong in a panic. In a water landing, your instinct is to pull that life jacket inflation cord the absolute second you put it on. But if the cabin is filling with water and you inflate your jacket inside, your newly buoyant body is going to get violently pinned against the cabin ceiling, trapping you. So the crucial point is this: you must swim out of the aircraft with a deflated jacket and only pull that cord once you are safely outside in the open air. 0. That is exactly how much visibility and light you might have inside an airplane cabin during a smoke-filled evacuation. The power could be totally cut, and the smoke completely blinding. This is exactly why, the second you sit down on your flight, you need to count the exact number of rows and headrests between your seat and the nearest emergency exit. In zero light, your hands doing the counting might literally be your only navigation tool out of there. Okay, now for a trick straight out of a blockbuster action movie. If you're ever held against your will with your hands bound tightly in front of you with a plastic cable tie, look down at your feet. Step 1, untie your shoelaces. Step 2, slip one lace up and through the cable tie loop between your wrists. Step 3, tie that lace tightly to your other shoe's lace. And step 4, bring your hands to your chest and kick your legs back and forth vigorously like you're riding a bicycle. The extreme, rapid friction of those laces rubbing against the plastic will actually heat up and snap the tie. Crazy, right? What if you're miles from an air pump and get a flat bike tire? Pull the tire off the rim, pack it as tightly as you can with grass and leaves, and pop it back on. It creates just enough firm structure to ride yourself to safety. And let's say you're lost without a compass, but you have an analog watch. If you're in the northern hemisphere, point your hour hand directly at the sun. South is exactly halfway between that hour hand and the number 12. Lost in the southern hemisphere? Just point the number 12 at the sun to find your bearings. Finally, let's bring it closer to home with Section 4, Home and Urban Survival. Let's ground the stakes right in your immediate surroundings, because emergencies happen in our living rooms and kitchens just as often as they do in the wild. In a house fire, it isn't usually the flames that get you, it's the smoke. Because hot, toxic smoke is lighter than air. It fills the room from the ceiling down. You absolutely must stay as close to the floor as humanly possible to find clean oxygen. Now, if you ever need to break through a locked door, never throw your shoulder or back into it. You'll just break your bones. Kick hard, flat, and aggressively right next to the handle where the lock meets the frame. And if you're choking completely alone, you can actually give yourself the Heimlich maneuver. Make a fist, place it on your stomach, and forcefully drop your body weight onto the hard edge of a chair back or table to expel the air. And here is a slightly humorous but genuinely incredible tip straight from our source. Caught in a raging fire with falling ash and dust? A bra can actually save your lungs. You can use one of the cups as an improvised debris mask. It's perfectly shaped to cover your nose and mouth, and then easily secure it by wrapping the straps around your head. Like the source jokingly noted, even the guys might want to start carrying one in their pockets just to be on the safe side. Let's move to and see how this builds into everyday household items becoming ultimate life-saving tools. Need your emergency radio but your batteries are too short? Wad up some aluminum foil. It safely bridges the gap and completes the electrical circuit. Freezing in a room with no power? Light a few candles, surround them with bricks, and put an upside-down terracotta pot over the top. The pot traps the flame's energy and radiates heat outward to warm up the entire room. And if a sudden tornado hits your house, jump right into the bathtub. Tubs are heavily anchored directly to the ground and surrounded by a reinforced cage of strong plumbing pipes, making them literally the safest structural spot in your home. We've covered 23 incredible ways to outsmart danger, from fighting off wildlife to snapping cable ties with your shoelaces. Survival isn't just about luck, folks. It's about replacing your blinding panic with structured, highly visual knowledge. So, my final question to you is this. The next time chaos erupts and your primal instinct kicks in to run, will you remember the logic you saw here today to survive? Stay safe, stay prepared, and we'll see you in the next explainer.